thought is, a mind is like a parachute. It does not work if it is not open. I repeat it again. A mind is like a parachute. It does not work if it is not open. Good morning everyone. Welcome back. I hope all of you are safe and fit at home, studying well and completing your work on time. This video is for the students of class 8, subject English. And today in this video, we shall cover one lesson of supplementary reader. This is our chapter number 3 and the name of the chapter is The Selfish Giant. It is written by none other than the famous writer Oscar Wilde. This is my lecture number 2 of the same chapter. This chapter is taken from It So Happened book. Students, first of all in this video, we shall read the key points and detailed summary along with word meanings of part 2 of chapter 3, The Selfish Giant. After then, we shall discuss the homework solution of the homework which was assigned to you in lecture number 1 of chapter 3, The Selfish Giant. So let's start reading the key points of the chapter 3, The Selfish Giant of part 2. Once, the selfish giant helped a little boy to sit on a tree branch. He noticed the miracle. To celebrate the return of the children, trees covered themselves with birds and blossoms. The trees were laden. Laden means covered, heavily loaded, with flowers even in winter. The boy was Christ, means Son of God himself. The giant was delighted to see his friends back, especially a little boy whom he loved dearly. He bore nail marks on his palms and feet. The boy kissed the giant whose hurt was changed. The giant let the children play freely in his garden. The little boy soon disappeared only to return much later. At last, the little boy took the giant to his own garden, the paradise, as a reward. So, these were the key points of part 2. A question arises, what are the main characters in The Selfish Giant? The most important characters in the story are the giant and the little boy. The kids act as a collective character and are associated with spring and joy. As the season refuses to enter the giant's garden in their absence. The seasons are also personified, having more a symbolic function. So let's read the summary of part 2 to know about it in detail. As we have already discussed, the introduction, key points and detailed summary were the word meanings of part 1 in lecture number 1. So let's see what is there in part 2. The arrival of spring in the garden. One day, the giant woke up. He had not heard songs for a long time. Now, the spring came, birds started singing. Birds chirping felt like king's musician to him. The giant jumped out of the bed and looked. Means, however, the giant was waiting eagerly and was hopeful. One morning, the giant heard the melodious song of a bird. The giant thought that it must be the king's musician passing by. Then the giant rejoiced as he was sure that the spring has arrived. He looked out and found that children were back. The most wonderful sight. The giant saw the loveliest sight. The children had entered his garden through a little hole. They were sitting in the branches of the trees. The trees were very glad to have them. Means, when he looked out, he found that children were back. Every tree was blossoming or blooming as a child was sitting on its branch. Trees were welcoming the kids by lowering. Lowering means to move something in low position, means downward. Their twigs. Twigs means a small thin branch of a tree. They had blossomed. The birds were flying about. They were chirping also. The flowers were also looking up. It was a lovely sight. The small kid. In one corner there was still winter. In that corner a small boy was standing. He could not reach the branches of the trees. He was crying and wandering about. The north wind blew and roared. The tree asked the boy to climb. It bent its branches down, but the boy could not or couldn't climb because of his small height. Means, the birds were flying, flowers were laughing, except for a place where a small child could not climb the tree. The poor tree wanted the child as frost, snow and north wind were blowing on that. The giant realized his mistake and decided to help the little boy. The children and the giant play. When the children saw the giant, they ran away. Spring turned into winter again in the giant's garden. Means, the garden became winter again due to absence of children. Only the little boy didn't run. He was weeping. The giant's heart melted at this scene. He didn't see the giant coming. The giant put the boy up into the tree. The tree blossomed at once again. The little boy kissed the giant. Means, the giant realized his mistake and decided to break the ball. He went downstairs and opened the front door. But the children were frightened to see him. They ran away from there. The small boy couldn't run away. The giant lifted the small boy in his hand gently and put him onto a branch of the tree. The tree blossomed at once again. The birds came and sang on it, and the little boy stretched out his two arms and flung them round the giant's neck and kissed him. The other children saw that the giant was not wicked. Wicked means evil. They came running back. With them came the spring. The giant told the children that it was their garden. He pulled down the wall. People saw the giant playing with the children during noon. Means, the giant's behavior was changed and he allowed the other children to play in his garden. Then they entered the spring. Giant took an axe or hammer and knocked down the wall. People were surprised to see the children playing with the giant. The missing kid. Now onwards, children played in the garden and thanked the giant. The giant asked about the small kid. Other kids were also not knowing about that little kid. They told that they also saw the kid or that kid for the first time. The giant felt very bad or very sad. Means the giant invited every child to visit his ground with special mention to the youngest child. But nobody knew him. The giant was kind to every child. Most beautiful flowers. Years went over. The giant grew very weak. He watched the children playing. He used to say that children were the most beautiful flowers. The giant was still missing the little boy because he was the boy who kissed him on his cheeks. He now did not fear from the winter, as he knew winter is just passing by. Means years rolled by. The giant grew old. He watched the children playing while sitting in an armchair. He said that children are the most beautiful flowers of all. The giant no longer hated the winters. The arrival of the mysterious kid. One winter morning, the giant suddenly rubbed his eyes. He saw a very beautiful scene. In one corner, there stood a lovely tree with white blossoms. Its branches were golden. The little boy stood under it. The giant became happy and ran toward him by shouting, "Where were you?" Means the giant no longer hated the winters. One morning, he was surprised to see the lovely white blossoms. Its branches were golden, bearing silver fruit. There was the little boy standing underneath. He was very happy and rushed towards him. Once he reached near the kid, he saw that the kid boy was wounded, means injured. He saw big nail scratches on his hands and the feet. The giant was in a rage. Rage means violent, uncontrollable anger. Asking how this happened, he said that he would slay the man who had wounded him. The child replies, "These are wounds of love." Means one day the giant found the little boy. On the palms of the child's hands and feet, it was sign of 2 nails. He felt anger to see his wounded palms and feet. He wanted to punish the wrongdoer. On asking who had wounded him, he replied, "Those were the wounds of love." The giant was shocked to hear such an answer. At last, the giant felt on his feet. Paradise. The giant at once asked the boy who he was. A strange fear fell on the giant. The boy was an angel. He had come to take the giant to the paradise. The boy smiled and replied, "You let me play once in your garden. Now I have come to take you to my garden, which is the paradise." Means when the giant asked from the boy who he was, the boy replied he was an angel. And then he gently said once he allowed him to play in his garden. Now he would take him along with him to his garden, which is the paradise. The giant found dead. Next day, children came in the afternoon to play. They saw the giant lying dead under the tree, covered with white flowers or blossoms. Means, this sentence indicates that the once selfish giant was blessed by the little boy who was Jesus Christ. He was happy that the giant was no longer selfish, and so he had returned to reward him and take the kind old feeble giant back with him to his garden, which was paradise. So this was the story of part 2, The Selfish Giant. Students, you have to complete your homework on the basis of the chapter explained by me. And your homework is read chapter 3, The Selfish Giant, and write word meanings highlighted in the video. Based on the understanding of the chapter, write the answers of the questions mentioned in the book It So Happened As. Page number 24, comprehension check, question number 1 to 5. Students, since you are not having your It So Happened book with you, so here in this video, I have mentioned your homework in detail. So let's see the questions so that you can do question answers in your fair notebook. Question number 1, part 1 is, the giant saw a most wondered sight. What did he see? Question number 1, part 2 is, what did he realize on seeing it? Question number 2, why was it still winter in one corner of the garden? Question number 3 is, describe the first meeting of the little boy and the giant. Question number 4 is, describe their second meeting after a long interval. Question number 5 is, the giant lie dead, all covered with white blossoms. What does this sentence indicate about the once selfish giant? So these were the questions which you have to do in your fair notebook, and these are on page number 24 in your book. Now let's discuss the homework solution of the homework which was assigned you in lecture number 1 of chapter 3, The Selfish Giant, which is written by the famous writer Oscar Wilde. Students, we have already discussed about the author, introduction, key points, detailed summary of part 1 along with word meanings in lecture number 1 of chapter 3, The Selfish Giant. As I assigned you homework which was to be done by you on the basis of your understanding, and your homework was read chapter 3, The Selfish Giant, and write word meanings highlighted in the video. Based on the understanding of the chapter, write the answers of the questions mentioned in the book It So Happened As. Page number 20, comprehension check, question number 1 to 5. So students, let's discuss the word meanings of part 1 of chapter 3, The Selfish Giant. Number 1, mesmerizing means very attractive. I repeat it again, mesmerizing means very attractive. Number 2, Cornish ogre means a giant of Cornwall in UK. I repeat it again, Cornish ogre means a giant of Cornwall in UK. Number 3, ogre means a cruel giant who eats people. I repeat it again, ogre means a cruel giant who eats people. Both the pronunciations are correct, ogre and augur. Number 4, trespassers means those who enter somebody's land without his or her permission. I repeat it again. Trespassers means those who entered somebody's land without his or her permission. Number 5, prosecuted means punished. I repeat it again. Prosecuted means punished. Number 6, north wind means chilly winds from north. I repeat it again. North wind means chilly winds from north. Number 7, hail means hailstorm. I repeat it again. Hail means hailstorm. Number 8, linnet means a brownish songbird found in Europe. I repeat it again. Linnet means a brownish songbird found in Europe. Number 9, casement means window that opens on hinges like a door. I repeat it again. Casement means window that opens on hinges like a door. So now let's discuss the questions and answers of part 1 of chapter 3, the selfish giant, which are on page number 23. Question number 1 is, why is the giant called selfish? The answer of the question is, the giant is called selfish because although he had a large and lovely garden, when he returned from visiting his friend, he did not allow the children to play in it. He shouted at them with a very gruff voice, means rough voice, and they all ran away. He then built a high wall all around it. It means garden, and put up a notice board which read or saying, trespassers will be prosecuted. Question number 2 is, on one occasion the children said, how happy we are here. Later they said, how happy we were there. What are they referring to in both the cases? The answer of the question is, on one occasion the children said, how happy we are here. This was a time when the children were playing in the giant's garden. While the giant had gone to visit his friend, it was a large, lovely garden with grass, beautiful flowers, peach trees, and birds singing in the trees. It was when the happy children stopped their games to listen to the birds that they said these words. On the other occasion, the children said, how happy we were there. This refers to the time when the giant had returned from his friend's place after 7 years, and seeing the children playing in the garden, shouted and chased them away and built a high wall around it. The children were not allowed to play there and tried playing on the dusty roads, but did not like it. While wandering round the high walls and talking about the beautiful garden, they sadly said these words. Question number 3, part 1. When spring came, it was still winter in the garden. What does winter stand for or indicate here? The answer of the question is, the winter stands for loneliness, sadness, a place without any activity, happiness or life. It also indicates that the garden was a deserted place. where no one used to come. Since happiness had left with the children, no birds cared to sing. The trees forgot to blossom, and even the beautiful flowers felt sorry for the children and slipped back into the ground to sleep. Question number 3, second part is, winter has been presented like a story with its own characters and their activities. Describe the story in your own words. The answer may vary. According to me, the answer is, in the garden of the giant, there was still winter. The birds did not care to sing, and the trees and flowers did not bloom, with no happy children around. The only people who were pleased were the snow and the frost. They were very happy that spring had forgotten this garden, and they would now be able to live there all the year round. They invited the north wind and hail to visit and stay with them. The snow covered the grass with her great white cloak. Cloak means here snow which covered something, and frost painted all the trees silver. The north wind found the garden a delightful spot. He came wrapped in furs, and he roared all day about the garden and blew the chimney pots down. Hail rattled on the roof of the castle till he broke all the slates and ran round and round the garden as fast as he could, dressed in grey with his breath like ice. Question number 4 is, was the giant happy or sad over the state of the garden? The answer of the question is, the giant was sad over the state of the garden because in his garden it was still winter. Spring and summer never came to his garden. The autumn gave golden fruit to the every garden, but to the giant's garden she gave none. Question number 5 is, what effect did the linnets song have over hail and the north wind? The answer of the question is, when the linnets sang a song, the hail stopped dancing over his head, and the north wind ceased, means stopped, roaring, and a delicious perfume came to him through the open casement. So, this is the end of the lecture. At last, I would like to say that read the chapter carefully, understand it in detail, and do the question answers in your fair notebook with your good handwriting by following the correct format. Students, if you like our videos, please hit on the like button and don't forget to subscribe our channel. Thank you and have a nice day.